You have to try this.
Okay, just a bite.
Hey everyone, welcome to Social Takeout. I'm Sarai.
And I'm Jeremy. If you've listened to us before, please go give us a 5-star on Apple Podcasts and share this episode with a friend who needs to hear it.
Okay. So if you haven't been living under a rock, you're at least aware of the interview between Duchess Meghan Markle and Prince Harry with Oprah. And there are a lot of important conversations that have come from this interview. And one of them is on colorism. So that's what we're all about today.
Yeah, and colorism is global. It affects every place that has been colonized, and probably more since American culture and entertainment is so pervasive. That's right. And like many systems of oppression, it is self-perpetuating.
Okay. I don't like being called out. Like, I'm not that American. I'm
Whenever American
Black
comes
American.
up.
Yeah. And I see you
Yeah.
changed colorism in all of your sections
Oh my God, it was
to
so
be spelled
annoying.
with a U. And I'm just like, what the fuck?
I know.
Why is it spelled that way?
We may share a border, but we spell things differently.
Yeah, the wrong way. Okay, so what is colorism?
So colorism is prejudice and or discrimination against people with dark skin, typically among people of the same ethnic or racial group, but from external groups as well.
So have you or your family members experienced colorism from within the family or community or even externally?
Yes. I do understand that colorism does exist. This is also what I wanted to talk about in the Black community. It's very rampant. And as we said in the beginning of this podcast, this exists throughout the world. Any place that has actually been affected by colonization, by white people,
Yeah.
definitely colorism sort of exists within it. So in my situation, there's 2 stories. They're very short. One of them is one of my distant relatives who's not part of a family anymore. He was kicked out.
Okay.
He was a horrible, terrible person.
I don't know if that's how that works, but okay.
No, kicked out and says like, he was divorced and he's not part of the family anymore. Sort of, he was a jerk. But I remember he was at my place once, and I was coming back from playing outside. I'm sweaty. It's Dubai. It's fucking hot, and I was gonna go shower. He decides to tell me like, oh, all that showering will not make you white anyways, or something. So there was this one, and then there was this other story when I used to have a girlfriend. Cue sad music.
Wait a second.
This is kindergarten.
It took a second for that to kick in. I was like, wait, to register. I was like, wait a second.
This is kindergarten. So girlfriend in sense like I called her my girlfriend.
Did you already know you were gay?
I was like, what, 5?
Yeah.
So it's like we held hands.
No,
and,
I know,
how
but
you
like
copy your
for
parents, sort of idea.
instance, someone very close to me has told me that they knew they were not straight from like 4 on.
I mean, the thing is like I obviously sort of did not have attractions towards women that way, but definitely towards men. I did have a big crush on my dad's friend. Another story. But as a child, gross now that I think of it. But in this case, when it's like girlfriend and boyfriend, we're not even thinking sexual because you don't even know what gay means.
Yeah, that's not what I mean.
Right?
Like as a kid. So I don't think it's gross for kids to have crushes on the, people around them. That's like totally natural. I mean, it would be gross if the opposite happened. But I think all kids have, I don't want to say attractions because it's not like that. It's just like a crush,
Yeah, I was totally attracted to boys, sexually speaking, but it was more like you're copying your parents or you're copying your relatives sort of idea. So it's like boyfriend, girlfriend. Yeah. But the problem was not that I had a girlfriend. It was because they were like probably like, oh my God, thank God he's straight. But that she was a darker skinned girl. Honestly, I don't remember this as much. I don't know if she was dark-skinned South Asian or was she Black? I'm not sure. I just knew she was dark-skinned because this was sort of like ingrained into my head since I was a child. Oh, he's dating a dark-skinned girl, or you know what I mean? Like they made fun of me for that and almost made me feel bad about it. I don't even know how it ended. Like, did I stop talking to her because of it? I have no idea.
Because you were 5.
Because exactly, yeah. But I do remember being made fun of for actually dating a dark skinned girl. Dark means like darker than
Yeah.
me. I am dark skinned too, like in many standards. So
Yeah. Okay,
yeah,
we'll talk about that more.
but
Yeah.
exactly, that goes deeper into
Mhm.
that. But I want to know yours though.
Okay, so, like, as a kid, I was always told, like, "You need to get out of the sun," you know?
Oh, that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, like, growing up, I always thought I was dark-skinned because I was the darkest person in my family, like, my immediate family that I grew up with. So that was my mom and sister, my grandmother lived next door, my aunt across the street and her kids. So, like, I was the darkest person in my family, and then, um like, not even that long ago, I was in a production of Porgy and Bess, and there were some very, like, deep brown people in the cast, and we were all in the dressing room taking pictures in our costumes and stuff. And then, this one group got together and they were like, hashtag team dark skin. And I was like, oh, me too, let me in. And they just like looked at me like I was crazy, stupid, and had 2 heads. Like they were like, "You are not dark skinned. Ill. Get out." Like, what?
Interesting. Yeah.
And so then I just had this very candid conversation with someone who's a friend who's very dark skinned. And I was like, I almost said their name. I was like, "Oh, friend, I'm dark skinned, right?" And they were like, no, you are what we would call normal brown. I'm using air quotes.
Normal. Oh God,
Yeah,
even that term. It's
just
like
like you're not light skinned, you're not dark skinned, you're just brown, you know? And I was like, "Oh, okay." But then like so I was dark skinned in my family, and when I would visit relatives or like play aunties and stuff in other parts of the country, I remember them talking about the brown paper bag test, you know, and it's like some
yeah.
parts um you can only go to if you can pass this test. So for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's if you are lighter than a brown paper bag, it's okay and safe for you to go to this place, you know, and if you're darker than that, it isn't safe. Um
Yeah.
and it's kind of like the brown paper bag test came to Buckingham Palace, which is the name of one of the articles we're going to talk about in a minute. Um,
Hmm.
and you can see from our like artwork that's posted. I'm using artwork very loosely. It's just 2 pictures of Meghan Markle. In one picture, she passes the brown paper bag test, and in the other, she doesn't quite. You know, so
Hmm.
I don't know.
Depending on the time of the
Yeah,
year.
exactly. It's like, oh God, have you ever gotten that? Like, have white people asked you, oh, do you tan?
Oh my God, yes.
I'm like,
Oh,
do I have skin?
it's kind of like asking, like, do you get darker than this? It's like, is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? I don't get
Right.
it. Like, do you expect me to be the exact same throughout the year?
They
I've reached
do.
my
It's
level,
like
high level of
it's
melanin.
like it's like we're another species, and
Oh.
obviously you can't get darker.
Or even like, do you get sunburned?
Yeah, I do. I actually sunburn really easily. Oh my god, I
Yeah.
went to Disneyland this one time as a teenager and I had cornrows and my scalp got sunburned, like, that was the most horrific experience.
Oh my
Yeah, that
God.
was awful. Um,
How does your scalp get
'Cause I had
sunburned?
fucking cornrows and it's hot as fuck in California, like, ugh. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to say is that, like, as a freshman in college, I had a crush on this very dark-skinned boy. Um,
Mhm.
I won't say his name, but we hung out a couple times, like, nothing ever happened.
Mhm.
But so there was, like, family weekend, and my mom came and, like, he just introduced himself, you know, like, as a friend, and so then I was like, "What do you think of that boy?" You know, and she was like, "Who, that really dark-skinned boy?"
Oh
You
my God.
know, or like,
Yeah.
even with, like other acquaintances, I would say, "Oh, you know, Mrs. So and so down the street. Oh, that really dark-skinned woman." It's like, yeah, like there's so many other ways to describe them. Why are you like getting hung up about how dark they are? But I mean, it makes
It's this.
sense like seeing
Yeah,
how
it's the same in the South Asian
yeah.
culture. Like, if you hear my parents, for example, talk about people, it's based on how the shade of their skin
Mhm.
in many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if this is sort of like societal level
Well,
that they fall under.
exactly. It's like the
Yeah,
farmers who are out in the sun all day are darker, obviously, you know. Yeah.
exactly. That's where the whole Asian culture side comes in from as well.
Mhm.
Like, if you're darker, you work in the
Yeah.
farms, and that's the reason we're considered lower caste in many
And
ways.
it's
Ugh.
funny because, like, so my grandfather, my mother's father, died before I was born, but I always grew up hearing about him and pictures of him all over the house, and I mean, to be honest, he looked Mexican, you know, my
Hmm.
family's very mixed. He wasn't Mexican, he was black, but mixed. Um And, it was really important for certain members of my family, to tell me it was, like, important to them that I know that he was actually very light-skinned, it's just he worked outside all of the time, so that's why he's brown in all of these pictures, and I was
Yeah.
like, okay." Like, you know, I'm brown too, like, and I'm not working
What do you think of
outside,
me?
you know? So it's just a very funny relationship. And you know what? You can't even say that it's funny because like especially like in black US culture, and by black I mean descendants of slaves, your color dictated what conditions you were going to live with, you
Mhm,
know, like were you going to be in the fields like doing literal backbreaking work, you know, or were you going to be a cook, or could you be in the house, you know? So
mhm,
it was like your proximity to whiteness gave you additional privileges the closer you were, which created a I don't want to say competition, but just some resentment like within the community,
mhm.
which I think is getting better. I think it is. It feels like it is.
It always feels like, but then it's like someone says something and then like, oh
Yeah.
fuck, we're back to square
Yeah,
one.
it's
But-
true.
All right, on that topic, let's talk more about colorism and Meghan Markle.
Mhm.
In an article in the Washington Post called "The Paperback Test Came to Buckingham Palace," the author writes, "I immediately thought about the adult women I grew up with, who would crowd around the bassinet, inspecting the newborn's ears, looking for a clue to indicate how light or dark skinned the child would end up being, especially if the parents came from opposite ends of the brown color spectrum. This is not to let the palace off the hook." Okay, so this sort of educated me a little
Mhm.
bit because the ear thing,
Yeah.
I did not know about this until I did a little bit of research into it. Do you want to explain it?
Well, I think it's just that like all babies when they come out are relatively white, you know. They
Yeah,
don't have their color yet if they're, you know, from black parents. And just like all babies have like gray or blue eyes when they're first
yeah.
born. So yeah, I mean, it's not a flattering thing to say about the black community that this is something that's very regularly commented on. So like I think hopefully everyone's seen the at least the clip of Oprah, you know, I think pretending to be shocked that they would ask the color of the baby, you know, or the
Yeah.
potential color of their children, but it's like of course they did. Like we as a community are so concerned with that.
There was a TikTok video that I recently posted on our
Mhm.
channel. It was basically that it was a call out to all South Asian people, basically saying that, do you see the expression on Oprah's face and the whole
Mhm.
world when Meghan Markle said that she was asked about the color of Archie's skin
Yeah.
and the concern over it or whatever. And I was like, do you know that this is regular like dinner table talk
Absolutely.
that people just talk about it easily. They're like, oh, that dark skinned person. What is that baby? Oh, he's going to marry this girl. Oh, imagine their kids. They're going to be dark.
Yeah.
Like, that sort of talk is very
It's
normal. And that comes from, guess where? The royal
yeah,
family, the British ruled fucking
colonialism.
India.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
so like in one way I think Oprah was not really surprised, but then in another way it's kind of ridiculous asking how dark a child coming from Meghan Markle would be. Like she's half white. You know, she could very easily pass for white if she wanted to. Um, you know, and a lot of black people historically have done so. Um,
Yeah.
so I think maybe that's where the surprise came from because it's like, excuse me, her husband is a ginger, you know, and she's
Exactly.
white. She could pass for
I
white
would
if she wanted to. Like their child is not going to be dark.
I think the surprise also came from, so say for example, if she was a dark-skinned black
Hmm.
woman, the question wouldn't have been as much of a surprise to a lot of people. I think the surprise came because they were like, she passes already, and they still asked about it,
Yeah.
like what the color of the skin is going to be. Like, would it be nice to have a little bit of color
I know.
compared to this
Oh, yeah, and
pale?
then all of those
So they're just surprised
pictures
by that also, I
all of
think.
those
Yeah.
pictures of, like, Prince Philip, who looks like
Oh.
a zombie, they were saying, you know, like, "These people have the audacity to ask about this baby's skin, are you crazy?"
Yeah, because it's like the lightest amount of like
Yeah.
color,
Um
even like they just don't want it,
So before we
sort of
continue
idea.
talking about this, I wanted to go off topic a little bit. Okay, so there was, she has passed away since, but there was a dark-skinned princess of Liechtenstein, who is she's a black woman who married Prince Maximilian of Liechtenstein, and I'll just send you the link real quick, and like we'll put a picture with our we'll just include this link in our notes for the episode. But she's this beautiful deep brown woman. You know, I kind of like saying deep brown instead of dark skin, but and they have the most adorable, very visibly mixed child, who's a prince, Prince Alfonso, Alphonse, excuse me. Adorable. So it's like, what is the problem? Do you see not only how beautiful this woman is, but like this is how you embrace someone who's not the same race into your family, you know?
Yeah.
And that's
Ugh,
not to say like she probably went through some shit too, but
that we don't
yeah,
know about,
exactly,
right?
because
Yeah.
I mean, this is a teeny tiny place that's not on a national stage.
Oh my gosh, she's
Yeah,
gorgeous.
and if you scroll down, you could see the
Yeah.
picture of their kid. Adorable.
Oh,
Right?
so
Yeah.
cute. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, moving on. So this sentiment of policing color in our own communities was echoed in a Facebook post that sort of went viral from a woman named Tahara Mons. I hope I'm saying her name correctly, which I would like to read all of, and then we can talk about. It's sort of long, but it'll go quickly. Okay, so she starts, well, since we're here, clears throat. This is Meghan Markle. She posts a picture of Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle is a black woman who many other black people don't even immediately recognize as black. And yet, some members of the royal family were so threatened by the very idea of blackness that they questioned Harry to his face about the possibility of his child coming out, quote, too dark. I'm going to return to dragging them for filth in a moment. But before I do, let me just talk to my people here. That fear that them people had of Harry and Meghan's baby, Archie, being too dark is directly akin to the same fear y'all, your mama, your aunties, and half your grandmamas have of the perception of blackness. It's the reason why y'all will come up in a hospital room when a baby's not even 3 days old and check their ears to see how dark they're going to be. It's why you wonder if the baby's eyes will stay the same blue or gray or whatever at birth. It's why you hope their hair will stay super curly. It's the reason why black men will intentionally aim to have mixed race or light skinned kids, because blackness offends you too. Not in the same way as them people, but you know enough about the world to want your children or child to look anything but black mixed with black. They, quote, taught us to hate ourselves, and we, quote, continue to perpetuate it. It's opposite sides of the same pervasive ass, racist ass coin. So, yeah, we're going to tear Buckingham a new ass this week. Fuck Charles forever. But when we're done, some of us need to turn around and cuss yourself out the next time you tell your child they need to stay out of the sun because they're getting too dark. I chose violence this morning. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
She's saying it like it
She is.
is.
Like, it's very plain spoken. And it's really just like, it speaks to the amount of racism that brown people or non-light skinned people, let's say, actually face. So what do you take from this post? Sorry.
So what I take from this post is like what we as, not a race, because there's multiple races in this, what we as people of color go through is a form of whitewashing, which actually started from colonization, slavery, all this kind of stuff. So when a person says that, oh, that person is too dark skinned, or I will not marry or have kids with
A dark-skinned
a person who is dark
Yeah.
skinned, yeah, because you don't want dark skinned babies, sort of idea. It's this form of whitewashing. We're trying to become closer and closer to what we consider is, and when I say we, I'm talking about people who talk about this over the dinner table, like about dark skin and stuff like that. We're trying to get closer to the master. I hate saying that, but when it comes to slavery reform, like, is this better? Is this how we can go up in society, sort of idea? So in many ways, when my grandparents, for example, say something like "stay out of the sun" or marry someone or have kids with someone who's light skinned, so your kids will be light skinned. What they think they're doing in many ways is like, oh, you'll actually have a better chance in life.
Yeah.
Which may be true in some way, shape, or form, to be completely honest with you, but it's also self-hatred.
I think it would have to be true for it to be such a big issue, but instead of like playing into the system, let's change it, right?
Yeah, it's got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So I think there is a movement happening right now. Like you made it a point earlier. I think there's a new generation who's actually much more aware of this. That colorism exists because there is a generation that does not even understand it. Like, you can explain it all to them. You can talk about slavery. You can talk about where this comes from. You can talk about colonization of it all and whitewashing, but they still wouldn't get it. They just 100% believe lighter skin is better.
Or more beautiful even.
Exactly.
I have a friend who is a deep brown, and we have a mutual acquaintance who is who could be white passing, but he isn't. He fully claims that he's Black. But this person said something to the effect of not understanding how our friend gets so many sexual partners because they are so dark-skinned and not very attractive.
Oh my God.
And I was like, I don't think they're unattractive. I just think they have dark skin. Like, they're very attractive. Like, have you looked at this person?
Oh my God. So there is a really funny story. So there's a cousin of mine. He's a first cousin. I'm not going to name him. I do not really talk to him anymore. I'm not going to name him. He lives in the States right now, but he was born and brought up in India. He moved to the States after he married his light-skinned wife. Okay. It was an arranged marriage sort of situation. But I remember hanging out with him. He came to visit us in Dubai, and he just is only actually sexually attracted to light-skinned women. He's a dark-skinned man.
That's that preference thing again. Like, I don't like Black women. It's my preference.
No, there's actually literally like beautiful dark-skinned women that he's actually said like, no, I'm not attracted to. I'm like, okay, that's weird. But
why? But hold on, we gotta get this point. Like, saying you're not attracted to dark skin to me is akin to this like racial preference thing on dating apps. Like, it's not a preference. That's internalized racism.
Oh, 100%. 100%. But the funny part is, I was watching a Beyonce video, and okay, there's another level of racism here. And he was so confused why she's sexy. Like, he actually was confused. So this also comes to the point where he's not exposed to it, probably. Like he was sort of brainwashed to think that is what he's supposed to like. But then all of a sudden he saw a Beyonce video. He's never probably seen English music videos at that point. He's like, and he asked me, who is she? I was like, oh, she's black. She can't be black. That was another thing he
Yeah,
said as
I
well. She
mean,
must be
go look
mixed.
at my TikTok video, like, I don't look anything other than blackity black, 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 you know? But
Yeah.
men who are not attracted, quote, to black women get super confused when, they have a
Hmm.
conversation with me and then they're attracted to me. They're like, "You must be mixed because you're so, like, well-spoken and educated and blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "No, it's just black."
Exactly. And this falls into that same sort of idea that, how do I start in this topic? Sexualization of it all. Like, not sexualization, being attracted to someone. You may be brainwashed and think that you're not attracted to someone, but just open your eyes. And a lot of people, it's so much internalized within the way they're actually brought up as well. Because if you're all your life you've been told, I can imagine this because I think my dad is a product of it. If all your life you've been told a particular kind of person is bad, it can be hard to actually get out of it, especially if you're coming from a tiny village of a place. But once you get out of it, it's your responsibility to sort of understand and research it yourself as well.
Yeah, I've just, finally come to the understanding that people, as long as things don't affect them, are very happy to not know about them.
But the weird part is they are one of them too, that they actually
Yeah.
hate. Do you know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? Like you can be dark skinned and hate dark skinned people.
Yes. Yes. So there is an article in our references that talks about black men not wanting to have dark-skinned children. And it goes through a list of reasons why. And let me just open this real quick. I wasn't going to talk about it because we're trying to keep it short. It's just such
But this topic is so
yeah,
like,
but
how do you keep this
So
short?
so, like,
Oh.
some of them are pretty babies. So these are pretty, like, superficial things. An ego stroke, to, like, have a light-skinned or white woman because, of historical context, self-hatred and other self-esteem issues. So there was one documentary that I was desperately trying to find but could not find it, where this black man was talking about how he would never want his kids to be dark-skinned because he would never want them to be treated or feel the way he felt as a dark-skinned black man
Mm.
in the United States.
So he's thinking of it more like, oh, I need to protect my
Right.
offspring.
Yeah.
So
So let's make them mixed. Okay, so in another Facebook post from Ijoma Oluo, I hope I said that correctly, who is a fabulous Nigerian American writer slash author, she said this, and I'm only going to read the first bit because it's quite long. Okay, so she says, "Quote: I've noticed quite a few light skinned Black people looking at the Meghan Markle interview and apparently thinking, quote, now it's my time to shine. The world will finally see how hard it is to be me, end quote. But before we turn this into our own personal spotlight on beige tears, let's be real here." And we should say that she is also very light skinned. Um, First off, we're talking about treatment that Meghan Markle experienced after marrying into the royal family. This is not the everyday story of Black existence. This is the story of how, if you are a thin, abled, white passing celebrity, you literally have to become royalty before you begin to experience some of the most harsh realities of being Black in a white supremacist institution that has been murdering dark-skinned folks for hundreds of years, end quote.
yeah.
Yeah. So her point is that yes, this is completely unacceptable, like this treatment of Meghan Markle. But let's not turn it around and say light-skinned people have faced the same prejudice. Like she didn't face this type of prejudice until she literally married into a royal family, which is not an everyday occurrence. So it takes something extraordinary for lighter skinned people to face the type of prejudice that normal brown people and dark skinned people, I'm using quotes for normal brown, experience sometimes on a daily basis. So what are your thoughts about this? Because I hadn't even considered,
It's interesting because I mean I think we all know this because we all fall in different
Mhm.
categories depending on the community we are in. So it's like what I said before. You may be light skinned in like when you were in the Porgy and Bess
Mm-hmm.
show, but you can be in a white community and obviously you're dark skinned.
Yes.
Sort of idea. Like it changes according to what group of people you're associating with. One example I can give is Priyanka Chopra. So she's this huge Bollywood
Mm-hmm.
star. Was having a great career there, and then she moved on to
Yes, I
Hollywood.
remember.
Yeah, and the amount of racism that came towards her side. People, first of all, there are a lot of directors did not cast her because they were like, if we have to cast an Indian girl, then we have to talk about why we have casted an Indian girl. For
Which is
example,
bullshit, but
how did
fine.
her parents show up in America? I'm like, they've been there for so
Yeah.
many years as Indian people living in the US.
Imagine.
So yeah, and then the whole skin color thing people are talking about. Then she married Nick Jonas, which is like a white singer. He's cute.
Okay.
I do like him.
Gonna
Yeah,
Google him.
but there was this whole bunch of white girls who actually liked Nick Jonas who just did not understand why he was marrying
Yeah,
Priyanka Chopra.
absolutely.
Yeah, so she was just not experiencing this, I guess, in Bollywood because over there she's considered normal skinned,
She's been.
like if that's
I
a
mean,
thing.
she looks light skinned. Like as long as she
Light
stays out
skinned
of the sun.
light skinned for like Indian
Yes.
standards.
Yeah.
But you can clearly say she's not white if
Absolutely.
she's in like a white
Yeah.
room, sort of idea. So she was very surprised by the difference between Hollywood and
Hmm.
Bollywood, sort of idea. So it's not the same thing at all because if we're talking about royalty, politics, all this kind of situation over here,
Hmm.
and sort of like deep family racism, it's almost like that. You go into a different scene, it changes.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Um. Hmm. So, do you think that this is something that white people think about? Like they're intentionally like, no, I only like lighter skinned black folk,
I
black and brown
from
folk.
at least yeah, I've actually thought about this. I'm like, do white people think about light skin, dark
Yeah.
skin, or is that a very like people of color thing? I think it's more a people of color thing
Mhm.
because to them we are still black and brown.
Yeah.
I think if we're closer looking to them, they find commonality
Well, yeah, it's
with it.
easy. It's probably easier for them to see commonality. Or
Yeah, but you're still
yeah.
black.
I have a dear friend who's mixed, and she told me this one time she started a job, and I don't remember like what the context of the conversation was, but basically the manager said was just like, "Oh, we were so happy when we got your application because like you're mixed, so like we get a black person, but not really." Or like
Oh
something
my
to this
god.
effect that was just so blatant, and she was like, "No, I am actually black also." Like, uh,
They actually said that? What the
yeah,
fuck? Like,
I
gosh.
know. Okay, so with
We met a quota.
exactly, we met
Like,
our
you're not really
quota, but
like,
we don't actually have to have a black person here. Okay,
that's fucking horrible.
so with all of that, I really want to talk about the rest of Ijemina Oluo's post. And the link for the post is in the description for this episode. And so, like, on our Patreon today, why don't we go through the rest of her post?
Yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds
because
good.
there's some really
So-
interesting points.
Yeah, we should. And I can't wait to get into it. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Go give us some 5 stars on Apple Podcasts.
Yes, and check us out on social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. All of those are linked on our website.
And join our Patreon for just $5 a month. There are over 20 episodes on our Patreon. I think like 25 or something. For you to binge right now.
Yeah. And every week we record an exclusive episode for our Patreon fam. Most of the time it is related to the main weekly episode, like a deep dive, like we're about to go do. But we're starting some standalone episodes just for the Patreon. So that's coming soon.
Oh, and don't forget about the after party. It's where we decompress after some serious topics. It's my favorite part.
Yeah, it's really fun. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for listening.
See you next week.
Okay.
Okay, bye.